Today's webinar is going to be connecting Dss V6 to your ADS server. So that way we import the users and groups. So some of the topics we're going to be going over with are where to download the Dss V6 to test. This allows you to use the Dss V6 latest version on our website, and you'll have 60 days to utilize this and test in your environment. We'll also be setting up the NAS logical volume and some of the areas that are related to inputting the DNS settings to match your ADS server. We're also going to be setting the correct time zones, NTP server, and configuring the proper ADS authentication settings as well. Once this is done, we'll go further into verifying that the users and groups are imported into the DSS NAS resources. And my name is Todd Maxwell, Open Technical Sales. And with me I have Tom Simon as Open Sales. You know, we talk about downloading the Dss V6. There's a free trial version. If you go to our website, you'll see the try blue button right up here on the top. This will allow you to download DSS. You have the option of using the DSS as burn it on an ISO image or USB flash stick. Typically, most of the customers use the USB flash stick as it's easy, it's fast, and it's easy to put into other systems that do not have the DVD or CD-ROM. So the zip version is commonly used the most, and currently you'll see today, as of the next 2 days on the 16th, there will be a new version of the Dss V6. And we recommend that version as that's been probably the most prominent release that will be coming in the history of Dss V6. As there's a lot of updates and fixes that I think you all will enjoy. Also keep in mind to always download the MD5 file that's associated with each of the trial versions and also the releases. The reason why, the Message Digest, there's a lot of free programs out there that you can use and verify that your download is accurate. Please also read the important notes, and the quick start guides are there to help you as well in case you are able to see some of the webcast videos. And of course we have the manuals associated with them as well. So that's it for the PowerPoint presentation. We kind of do these very quickly to go right into our software. This will spend more time focusing on the product itself. Webinars are always planned. We'll set up a schedule. They are online and on our webpage with new dates and themes. So I hope to see you then. Let's end this and continue. Again, once we talked about where to go ahead and get the download Dss V6, here you see the try button. You can log in and you have a user portal as well. And here you can download DSS, either the ISO image for CD, and if you scroll down, you'll see the zip version for USB flash sticks. Now, once you have your flash stick ready and you boot up your system and you've configured a volume, you should be able to see right here as we log into a browser using Firefox currently right now. But the default IP address you'll see right up here is going to be 192.168.0.220. The first thing you want to do is make sure that when you go into configuration, into volume groups, that you do have a volume. And that can consist of a single drive, a software RAID, or a RAID controller creating a RAID array. Now when you have your volume on the left, you'll see VG00. So in the beginning, we need to create an NAS volume to be able to have users share files in our network attached storage that we create. So we're going to select new NAS volume, and we can put any amount in there, so we'll just put 100 gig. You can select the use volume replication. When you use volume replication, you have the ability to replicate at the block level. Worm is write once, read many, but you cannot use the replication or backup functions or antivirus. So once it is written once to a NAS logical volume, you cannot delete the file either. So please be careful when using Worm that it is there to protect the data. So we're not going to be working with Worm at all today. Let's go ahead and create our NAS volume. And there are other options in here that you see. You know, a lot of you ask about the reserve pool. What's that for? That 4 gig is there by default. You can remove it, but it's sort of like swap, and you know, it's used in case of memory and other resources that are needed. And then, of course, we have other functions reserved for system and reserved for replication, and that's when you use those, and they'll be calculated once you put your amount of capacity for that logical volume. So now we have our NAS logical volume. One of the things we want to do is make sure our gateway in DNS is set, or just the DNS. So let's make sure that our NIC, so you want to go to Setup, Network Interfaces, and I'm going to be making sure that my DSS, my server name, is unique, and also my DNS server is pointing to my ADS. So my ADS server is the DNS server. You can add additional DNS settings here. If you use a semicolon, you can add another IP address. And therefore, you can add additional DNS servers. And then once you do that, is then you want to make sure that here you can see the default gateway that I have for the NIC, which is E0, which is on the same subnet as my DNS server. What we'll do is put this back, so in the original position. The DNS server, the first NIC that I have here, E0, is using the default gateway of 0.200. So it's on the same subnet. Now once that's done, we've already created our NAS logical volume. Let's go into Configuration, NAS Settings. And here we have the 5 authentication methods. We are going to select for this topic ADS. Now I have a domain already set with the Windows 2003 server, and I set the computer name for DSS as well in the Windows 2003 server. And also for my DNS settings, I have a forward and reverse lookup zone specified for the IP address of the Dss V6 server. So I placed 192.168.0.220. Now my ADS server is this IP address, which is the 192.168.0.8, and is also my DNS settings that, if you remember, we placed in there. The account administrator that we're going to use, you want to make sure it's a domain admin. So for this purpose, I'm placing administrator for obvious reasons, but if you have for any name, make sure that it's a domain admin account. We want to enter the password. And allow trusted domains. We have a feature here that you can utilize, as well as what's called Erase TBD database. Now what that is if in case you wanted to clear out the cache of all the users and groups that is stored previously, then you can flush them out with this. But for a brand new setup, you wouldn't have to do that. So we'll go ahead and apply this. Keep in mind that if you already have users and groups existing in the, let's say, internal or external LDAP, that they will be removed. And this is going to take a few minutes, because what's happening here is that we're connecting to the ADS server with the credentials of the administrator, domain admin. And at this point, we're exchanging for the Kerberos is to be able to pull down the users and groups and import them into our NAS resources, where you'll see the pool of users and groups. Looks like we're done now, so it happens relatively fast. I do want to make a point, if it doesn't, and the reason why I bring this up now, let's say there's some issue and you're not able to connect, make sure that your time settings are properly set. Timing is very important with Kerberos and ADS, and the default, what they give you is a variance of up to 5 minutes. I suggest that you do that a lot better than that, and where you want to set your time is into setup hardware. When you go to time zones, you'll see that you can change the time zones and set your time zones. Here you want to be able to set your time zones for exactly the ADS server's time. So keep that in mind, and I usually use continuous adjusting for NTP, and make sure your time matches your ADS server and your time zone. So for this configuration, we're just going to go ahead and set it for this area. And we're going to go right back to the NAS settings. And you know, if you got protocols, your file protocols, you want to enable them. If you are thinking that you're going to be using the NFS or FTP for your users, go ahead and set these now. Also for Apple Talk and your Samba settings. This is for like super user. So let's set the administrator and anyone else who would want to be a super user as well. And if you have other attributes that you'd like to utilize, you can hide special folders, preserve system file attributes for the access control list, and store DOS attributes and protect negotiations. We'll hit apply on that, so that way that's complete. If you also want to use the HTTP share access setup, you can utilize this here. Now once you're done with this, you can go ahead and go right into the configuration, the NAS shares, and you will see that we have all our users. So they imported from the ADS server. But we need to be able to have a share. So at this point, we'll just create a share called data and apply it to the logical volume that we've created. And now on the left side, you see data. So let's go into the share. And here you have the ability for SMB and SIFs to be able to set that share for read-only, to mark it as visible or invisible, to handle large directories. So if you have million files and millions of directories, you want to be able to set that for, in such cases, for, let's say, phone calling, voice recording, things of this nature where you have hundreds of files daily that come in. Now we have it set up for users and passwords. You have the new feature we have with the new version that's coming out on the 16th is we can do inherit owners, inherit access control lists, inherit permissions, and locking and map the ACL inheritance. Otherwise, if you just have a regular group, you can do guest with anyone without password. But here you have users with passwords. We'll go ahead and set that, hit apply. And then this will start to broadcast on the network immediately. Typically, questions a lot of times people ask, well, what happens if I add a new user in my ADS server? When will I know that it will come in? Well, every 15 minutes, the DSS goes out and queries the ADS server to find out if there's any new users in groups, and thus it'll import them in.